Well, let's go ahead and get started. We have a number of colleagues coming today, and I'm pleased to say that there is a lot of interest in this issue because it's so important right now. We already have a crisis at the border. Everybody knows that. That crisis threatens to become a catastrophe. So last year, about 1 million people came into our country, mostly under the asylum system. So they came to the border unlawfully, allowed to come into the country. This year, we are on track to have a lot more. We don't have the final numbers yet, but probably it'll be between 1.5 and 2 million people. So it's already at crisis levels. And when you talk to the Border Patrol, they will tell you it's very difficult for them to deal with the current flow. We also know that along with people coming over our border in unprecedented numbers, we have an unprecedented amount of illegal drugs coming into the country, particularly the synthetic opioid called fentanyl. Those numbers are at historic levels and unfortunately are resulting in overdoses and overdose deaths in this country at historic levels. So in my home state of Ohio, as an example, we have a increasingly large number of people who are overdosing and dying from fentanyl. I was at a drug coalition meeting a few days ago in Ohio, and I asked whether the national statistics, which say that 2/3 of the people who overdose and die are dying from fentanyl, is accurate, and at least in the Toledo, Ohio area, they told me no, it's more like 80 or 90%. This fentanyl is coming in primarily from the southern border. So it's an immigration issue, it's a humanitarian issue, it's a safety issue, and it's certainly an issue of illegal drugs with a devastating impact on our communities. We're here to talk about the possibility of it getting even worse, which is because the public health authority called Title 42 may well expire. The administration, as you know, has supported having it expire next month. The Border Patrol, again, have said in no uncertain terms to all of us, and I hope to many of you, that should that happen, they will lose operational control of the border. Right now, there are about 8,000 people a day coming through the border. They believe that if Title 42 is revoked, that number will increase dramatically. The Department of Homeland Security has told us privately that they think that's between 12,000 and 18,000 people a day. So this is just impossible for the Border Patrol to handle. The Title 42 issue, to set the stage here for my colleagues and their remarks, is in litigation. There's a judge in Louisiana who has said that the administration cannot simply revoke this, but they have not set a date as to what might be the appropriate time frame, if there is one. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now, certainly. But we have to presume that the administration may be successful here, and that means Title 42 would come to an end. Roughly half of the people who come to the border are turned away under Title 42. Roughly half. So the 1 million people a year is really 2 million people a year. About 1 million are turned back under Title 42. We also know that the Public Health Emergency and the National Emergencies Act are continuing in place indefinitely. So there seems to be a real disconnect between what's happening with regard to Title 42 on the one hand and the public health emergencies on the other hand. This is a situation that, again, is already a crisis, already something that we cannot handle with current resources. Yesterday, we had a conference call with the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, in which he laid out a potential plan should Title 42 be revoked. It sounds a lot like the plan currently in place, which is simply to expedite people coming through the process. No plan to put in place the kinds of things that were in place during the Trump administration to try to deal with the border crisis, including the Remain in Mexico policy, the expedited removals, the notion that with regard to asylum there would be more scrutiny earlier in the process, but instead just coming up with a way to provide more resources to move people through the system more quickly. So in effect to make it easier for people to get from the border into the interior of the country. So that was disappointing. I'm really glad, again, my colleagues are all here, and a lot of them have been down to the border, as I have, and heard directly from the Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection folks at the ports of entry to understand the severity of this crisis. I'd like for you to hear from them now. Senator Barrasso.